Who is Rassie Erasmus gonna start in the Springbok 23-man lineup to face Australia? This is a new series called Inside Rassie's Head, where I am gonna try and predict the exact 23-man lineup that Rassie Erasmus is going to field against Australia next weekend. But what makes this so fun is that you guys can also comment who you think Rassie's going to select in each position down in the comments. And then next week, I'm going to be reacting to my prediction as well as what the actual team is. And if any of you guys get it spot on, I'll be shouting you out in that video. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about South African rugby. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. Drop your predicted lineup down in the comments and leave this video a like. Let's get into it. Now, this was quite a long and difficult exercise to go through to try and put together a 23-man side that I think Rassie is going to play. I'm going to give you all my reasoning behind every single pick that I'm making and why Rassie Erasmus is going to choose these players. What we do have to think about is that we do have New Zealand coming up in a couple of weeks. So is Rassie Erasmus going to give as many opportunities against Australia than what he did against Italy, the Barbarians, and Georgia? The answer is probably not. I think he's going to try and find out what his best 23-man side is so that they can play against New Zealand at Eden Park and Wellington. So while there might be a couple of guys getting opportunities, I do think the majority of the team is going to be who Rassie Erasmus thinks is going to start against New Zealand. Now, let's get into it, into the front row. Now, we do have a couple of options. I think in that number 1 jersey, we have to go Oxencho, and I think Rassie is going to pick Oxencho because the other options are Boa and Fenta, unlikely to start against New Zealand. So although he had a good game against Georgia, I do think Rassie's still going to go with Ox. We are going to have to manage Ox a little bit because of how much game time that he has had. And then our other loose head is Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Now, there's a case to be made that Jan-Hendrik Wessels should start, but I think Ox is going to get the start against Australia. My other prop in the number 3 jersey is it's either Volkolo, Asanatin Klabakanye, or Vincent Koch. I think because the game is at Ellis Park, I think Rassie Erasmus still wants to test out Asanati and Klabakanye a little bit, maybe give Volkolo a bit of a break. There is a world where Rassie starts Vincent Koch, but I really think he's going to start Asanati and Klabakanye. He plays for the Lions, he knows Ellis Park, and I think partnering up with Oxencho, who's very experienced, is the right opportunity to give Asanati to kind of see what he's about against a better opposition than the Barbarians or Italy. Then in that 2 jersey for hooker, I think our front runner in hooker at hooker at the moment is Malcolm Marx. Now there is a case to be made for Marnus van der Merwe as well as Bongi Mbonambe. Now I do think he's gonna give Malcolm a little bit of a rest from starting against Australia. Bongi hasn't performed too well in the first 4 test matches, and I think this is a good opportunity for Bongi Mbonambe to start, to get some confidence back, and to face Australia, who have just come off a Lions series, should have arguably won the Lions series 2-1, and I think giving Bongi a little bit of confidence isn't a bad thing going into those New Zealand tests. So I've got Ox, I've got Bongi, who both play together at the Sharks, and then I've gone for a bit of a wild card pick with Asanati and Klabakanye in that number 3 jersey. I think that is a massive, massive front row. You've got the experience of Ox and Bongi, and then Asanati with the home ground advantage being Ellis Park. Then into the lock department, and to be honest, there's so many combinations that Rassie Erasmus could go with here, and it took me quite a while to lock down these two because Rua Nokia has been playing out of his socks lately, especially last season was probably the find of the season for the Springboks last season. He had very good showings against Italy and Georgia. And when he's on the field, it's almost like our lineout works perfectly. He's not as big as a Loet Diaga or Archias Snyman, but he gets the job done. And I think if you pair him up with someone like an Ebenezebeth, you get that brute force as well as that sort of rugby IQ in Rua Nokia. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to start him because I'm trying to think like Rassie Erasmus. I'm trying to get in Rassie's head. So in that number 4 jersey, I think we're still going to go with Ebenezebeth. I think Eben is still our favorite in that number 4 jersey, and especially for that All Blacks test. So I think Eben is going to get a run in the 4 jersey, and I'm going to pair him up with Loet Diaga. I think Loet de Jager is back from that little niggle that he had. He has been training with the Boks, and I think at the moment that's probably our best pairing. Ruan Nokia is right there. I don't think Archia Sneeman's going to start. I don't think Franco Mostert going to start, and I don't think Kobus Visser is going to start. So if I'm Rassie, if I'm trying to think like Rassie, I think I'm going to go for Eben Etzebeth and Loet de Jager in that 4 and 5 jersey. Then the loose forwards. Now, I think 6 and 7 is pretty locked down. Is Rassie Erasmus going to experiment with that 6 and 7 position in these 2 Australian tests? I don't think so. I think we might have a couple of different faces coming off of the bench, but I think he's going to stick with Siya Kolisi at 6 to captain the side and Peter Steph du Toit in that number 7 jersey to get these guys battle ready, battle proof for those All Blacks tests coming up. So I'm going to go for Siya and Peter Steph at 7. Then that 8 discussion. We've got Kwagga Smith, we've got Jean-Luc Depree, and now we've got Kobus Visser. Do I think Kobus Visser is going to start against Australia? Probably not. I think he is a little bit of a backup, and he provides that utility between lock, between flank, between 8 now, which is very, very valuable. Do I think Kwagga Smith is going to start? He could. He definitely could, and I think Kwagga might actually start in the New Zealand test, but I think Rassie Erasmus is going to go for Jean-Luc Depree at 8. I think having Kwagga come off of the bench is a lot more valuable in this game because it gives us an opportunity to test out Jean-Luc Depree again, give him a couple of minutes against the side that isn't in Italy or Georgia or the Barbarians, and really see if he's going to sink or swim in a Springbok jersey. So that's how I see the forward pack for the Springboks lining up against Australia if I'm thinking like Rassie. Now the back line is arguably even more difficult because there's so many options, there's so many guys in form. The combinations are very, very important in the back line. So starting with the scrum offs, we've got Kobus Reinach, we've got Morne van den Berg, and we've got Grant Williams. Now, if I think back to last year's test match at Ellis Park against New Zealand, we had Grant Williams and Sasha Feinberg and Ngumazulu starting. Now, to be fair, Grant Williams got injured in like the first 2 minutes of that game, and Sasha started, and it was against the All Blacks. I was actually at that game. Sasha had a very, very good game there. So it would surprise me if anyone but Grant Williams starts against Australia. There is obviously a conversation to be had around Morne van den Berg, the form he's been in. He also plays for the Lions, so that's his home ground. Kobus Reinach brings all sorts of experience to the table. But if I'm Rassie Erasmus, I think he's going to go for Grant Williams at 9. And then who does he pair him with at 10? This is going to be a massive debate throughout the season. Is it Handré Pollard, Sasha, or Manie Libbok? Now, there has been an article that's come out, and Rassie's kind of said there is no first choice number 10 for the Springboks at the moment. Each player provides a different case as to why they should be selected in a Springbok jersey. And I think, if I'm trying to think like Rassie Erasmus, you almost have to think like, what's the last thing that us fans would think he's going to do? I think the safe play is Handré Pollard. I don't think he's going to start him at Ellis Park. Manie Libbok has been in sensational form. I think he's going to pick Sasha Feinberg and Ngumazulu in that 10 jersey, and I'll tell you why. One, because he played against the All Blacks at Ellis Park last year. And also, Sasha's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder at the moment. He didn't have a great performance against Georgia, and I think he needs to go out and prove himself in that Springbok jersey again. I think it's going to be a completely different game against Australia, and I think Sasha performs well under pressure, especially with Grant Williams at 9. I think Rassie's going to give Sasha a shot in that 10 jersey and say, here's your opportunity. If you want to play against the All Blacks, go show us why. So I'm going to go 9, Grant Williams, 10, Sasha Feinberg, Ngumazulu. Then into the centers, and this is going to be a very interesting one. Now, I do have some inside information that Damien Delende did leave training to come back home and that he might not be fit. I'm sure he's on his way back to go and train with the Springboks now, but I just don't see Rassie starting him if there has been a couple of tweaks. So I'm going to go with Andre Esterhuizen at 12. Then at 13, we can go Jesse Creel, Kane Moody. We can go Ethan Hooker. The two front runners at the moment are Jesse Creel and Kane Moody. Now, let me tell you why I don't think Kane Moody is going to play in that 13 jersey. Yes, he performed phenomenally well on attack, but his defense at that in that 13 position, that 13 channel, I think he's still learning how to defend there. And I don't think Rassie's going to give him he might give him an opportunity against Australia in the second test or coming off of the bench. But I think Jesse Creel in that 13 jersey with the defense as well as the experience is the front runner. And if we're searching for that center combination to take on the All Blacks, then I'm going to go with Jesse Creel at 13. So Andre at 12, Jesse Creel at 13. And then into our wings, Now, the obvious choices are Kurtley Arendse and Cheslin Kolbe, but Chesy hasn't been training with the Springboks recently. He's just gone back into camp because of a niggle. Do I think Rassie Erasmus is going to risk him against Australia in this first test when we have New Zealand coming up because of a niggle? I don't think so. I also think we're so blessed with Edwil van der Merwe being in phenomenal form. Ethan Hooker can also play wing. So I think Rassie's going to go with Kurtley Arendse and Edwil van der Merwe on the wings in 11 and 14. We then move over into the fullbacks. Now, I racked my brain for so long on who I think Rassie's going to pick in this 15 jersey, because you can go for Apelele Fassi, who's in great form. You can go for Damian Willemse, but we also still have Willie Leroux running around. Now, if we're thinking like Rassie, he backs and appreciates experience within that Springbok jersey. Willie Leroux has 100 caps for the Springboks for a reason. It's going to be a massive call for Rassie Erasmus not to play Willie Leroux against the All Blacks. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. As much as I want to see Apelele Fassi and Damian Willemse in that 15 jersey against Australia, I think Rassie is going to pick Willie Leroux in that 15 jersey. One, because Sasha's playing 10, so Willie provides a little bit more experience at the back, but also because Cheslin Kolbe is not on the pitch. And Willie's going to help supplement Edwil van der Merwe on that wing. I think we as fast as we want to try and move on from Willie Leroux, I think there is still merit in him being on that field to coach the likes of a Sasha and Edwil van der Merwe to help Kurtley Arendse out at the back a little bit. So this might be my hot take for the video, but I think Rassie's going to start Willie Leroux at 15 against Australia. Then into the bench, and I'm going to go run through these quite quickly. I'm going to go for a 5-3 bench split. I'm not going to go for a 6-2 because I do think Rassie's still testing a couple of combinations. While the 6-2 split is probably the safest to go, I think Rassie is going to go for a 5-3 split. In the front row, I'm going to go for Malcolm Marx coming off of the bench, replacement hooker. For the two props, I'm going to go for Jan-Hendrik Wessels and Volko Low. I'm going to keep that blue bull synergy going in the front row, and they've both been performing out of their socks. Replacement lock, I'm going to go for Franco Mostert just because he provides that extra utility at flank as well. And then I've obviously gone Kwagga Smith as the last utility forward there. 3 backs. I'm going to go for Kobus Reinach, I'm going to go for Handré Pollard, and I'm going to go for Damian Willemse. So the reason I went for a 5-3 is so that we can play Damian Willemse coming off the bench. I still think we need to figure out exactly where people fit in once guys coming on the bench. Obviously, you got Kobus coming in at 9. You got Handré Pollard moving to 10, and I want to have Damian Willemse there to either come on at 12, 13, 15, depending. The problem is if we go for a 6-2 split and only have Kobus and Handré on the bench with Sasha and Willie starting, we don't have an out-and-out fullback that can cover that position if Willie gets injured. So that's why I'm going for a 5-3 split with Kobus, Handré, and Damian Willemse on the bench. And that's how I see Rassie Erasmus lining up the Springboks to face Australia next weekend. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.